Previously, on Horror, on Cedar Block, the line between the living and the dead has thinned. Sam Carter, still haunted by the echoes of a cursed bloodline, dives deeper into the shadows of his ancestry. Mama Mars, growing more powerful by the hour, calls forth spirits who demand vengeance, not peace. In a ritual soaked in firelight and blood memory, the dead rise not as monsters, but as witnesses and warriors. Tensions build between Sam and Serenity as secrets surface and the truth of who Sam really is begins to unravel. Meanwhile, a new figure moves in the Dark One, tied to the original sin of Cedar Block. The ancestors are watching, and they're done being silent. Cedar Block is changing. The soil remembers, and now it bleeds.
Horror on Cedar Block. Horror on Cedar Block.
Chapter 6. The Mirror's Edge. The air in Mama Mars's parlor was thick with the scent of myrrh and something darker, something old. Sam stood by the cracked mirror on the wall, watching as his own reflection blinked when he did not. It was the third night in a row this had happened. He leaned in closer, his breath fogging the glass. But the mist didn't dissipate naturally. It swirled into the shape of a finger, tracing the line of his jaw from the other side. A cold, electric shiver raced down his spine, settling in his gut with a heavy, pulsing heat. Mama Mars didn't flinch when she saw the shadow flicker across the room. She stepped behind him, her presence suddenly overwhelming. She didn't offer the comfort of a grandmother. She stood so close he could feel the radiant heat of her body, her hands hovering just inches from his waist. That mirror was never meant for vanity, baby. That's a window, she whispered, her voice a low vibration that seemed to hum directly against the nape of his neck. Her eyes glowed like coals beneath the low candlelight, reflecting a version of Sam that looked hungrier, more desperate than he felt. A window to where the pain gets trapped. Outside, the wind howled through the streets of Cedar Block like it carried the voices of the enslaved. Their agony was fuel, their vengeance still thick in the soil. A voice called from within the glass, ancient and trembling one that knew Sam's name before he ever spoke it. It didn't just speak, it sighed his name, a sound like silk tearing, making the hair on his arms stand up in a mix of terror and a strange, forbidden allure. And when he touched the glass, it bled. The mirror's blood ran down the wall, thick and unnaturally warm. It didn't just spill, it pulsed, a rhythmic gushing that matched the frantic thudding of Sam's heart. He felt a magnetic pull, his palm flat against the surface, as if the glass were trying to drink him. The names began to form, spelled in crimson ink. Neither Sam nor Mama Mars recognized at first. But as the flames in the room flickered, the names became clear. Plantation owners, overseers, northern politicians who had smiled while signing away lives. Bankers, preachers, every name. a link in a chain that still bound the spirits of the ancestors in torment. Mama Mars gripped his shoulders, her fingers digging into his muscles with surprising strength. They made deals, Sam. They took from us and told the world we were cursed. But it was them. They carved this curse with ink and arrogance. Her touch was feverish, her breath hitching as she watched the names bleed. There was a dark intimacy in their shared witness, a tether of shared trauma that felt almost suffocating. Sam stared into the glass again, and this time the reflection was not his own. It was a boy, no older than 10, bound and screaming as flames danced at his feet. The reflection shattered into 1,000 screaming shards that hung suspended in the air, each one reflecting a different piece of Sam. His terrified eyes, his parted lips, the sweat beaded on his throat. They burned the schools we built, Mama Mars said, her voice dropping to a gravelly moan. Poisoned the wells, took our babies, and called it salvation. Sam backed away as the shards began to rearrange themselves, forming a face. Papa Legbas. The shards didn't just move. They ground against one another like teeth. Truth is heavy, boy. Legbas' voice slithered from the glass, sounding like a lover's secret whispered in the dark. But you asked to carry it. The air in the room thickened, buzzing like hornets. Sam felt his knees buckle, the atmosphere turning viscous, making every movement feel like he was wading through honey. The floor beneath him turned soft, like soil soaked in blood, yielding to his weight with a wet, squelching sound that made his skin crawl. What do they want? He asked, his voice breaking. Justice, Mama Mars said. Her eyes locked on his, a predatory gleam in her gaze. But they'll settle for retribution. Legba's smile in the glass twisted, his eyes roaming over Sam with a terrifying, hungry appreciation. Or a reckoning. Outside, lightning split the sky. Inside, every candle went out and the mirror cracked again. But this time, it cracked inward, pulling the very light from the room into its depths. Sam staggered back, heart pounding like a drumbeat in a death march. Behind the cracked glass, his reflection twisted, not just mimicking, but mocking. Its lips moved with no sound, its tongue tracing its teeth in a way that felt like a violation. Then, faintly, a woman's scream echoed from deep within the mirror's depths, followed by a low, melodic moan that sounded tragically like pleasure. Mama Mars, Sam choked. What is this? Why does it know me? Mama Mars didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer to the mirror, placing one hand gently on the dusty frame, her touch almost a caress. That ain't no mirror, baby. That's where the forgotten go. Their pain got no resting place, so it lingers. And when blood touches the glass like yours just did, it remembers everything. It remembers the heat of the body, Sam. It remembers the way we burn. A gust of cold wind burst through the sealed windows. Yet Sam felt a flush of heat rise to his face. The mirror's surface rippled like disturbed water, revealing memories that felt like they were being branded into his mind. A young, enslaved woman, strung up for fighting back. a boy buried alive, a priest forcing a family to renounce their gods. Each image was accompanied by a phantom sensation, the sting of a lash, the pressure of a hand, the suffocating weight of another body. They kill them for being strong, Mama Mars whispered, her eyes wet and wild. And your blood, our blood, is calling them back. It's a hunger, Sam. A hunger that's been starving for a century. Sam fell to his knees, the weight of inherited pain crushing his chest. He could feel their hands reaching through time, grabbing at his ribs, their fingers ghosting over his skin with an icy, desperate longing. He was being pulled into a history he never asked for, seduced by a darkness that promised to fill the emptiness in his soul. Then he saw her, his great-grandmother, not in glory, but in chains, her eyes burning with a fury that felt like a physical strike. "We bled for you," she said, her voice vibrating in the marrow of his bones. "Now you bleed for us." Sam's fingers trembled as he drew back. The blood smeared across the glass, now forming sigils he couldn't read, but his body understood. They pulsed like open wounds, radiating a dark, sexual energy that made his head spin. The house itself groaned, a deep, guttural sound, like a beast waking from a long slumber. Mama Mars turned to him, her voice lower than before, almost a purr. "That blood ain't yours, Sam. That's your great-granddaddy's. The man who made the deal and doomed us all." The betrayal settled in his bones, heavy and intoxicating. From the mirror, voices began to overlap, crying, praying, choking. They told stories of whippings and betrayals, of a cost that was never paid in full. "Vengeance wears a different face when the blood's been screaming," Mama Mars said. She leaned over him, her shadow looming large against the wall. Sam looked down at his palm where the blood had touched. A Vive was carved in red. It glowed with a faint, sickly light, throbbing in time with his pulse. Papa Legba's calling card. "You've been chosen to remember," the mirror whispered, the voice now sounding like his own, but deeper, more assured. "Now, choose whether to fight or feed the soil like the rest." The mirror pulsed, slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Every flicker of candlelight inside the room dimmed when Sam looked into it, as if the darkness behind the glass drank the light whole. What stared back was not him anymore. Its skin was cracked porcelain, its eyes two deep voids. When it smiled, Sam felt an ache in his teeth, a yearning for something he couldn't name. Mama Mars moved slower than usual, her movements fluid and serpentine. She set a jar on the floor, filled with thick, black swamp blood. "Collected under the last blood moon," she said, her voice thick with meaning. "We gon' need it." "Need it for what?" Sam asked, his heart hammering against his ribs. She pointed to the mirror, where a woman hung, suspended, chained, her eyes cut out, her mouth stitched shut. "To speak to her," Mama Mars said. "She died screaming, Sam. She died wanting." Sam staggered back. "What pact?" Mama Mars looked up, her eyes watering with a mixture of rage and a terrible, dark desire. "Your family asked for freedom the wrong way. They took power that wasn't theirs, from spirits that don't forget. This mirror don't show reflections. It shows debt, and the debt is overdue. As Sam's hand brushed the surface again, the bleeding resumed, thicker this time. It felt like velvet against his skin. His nose, ears, fingertips, everything leaked crimson. And from inside the mirror, the chained woman finally moved, her limbs cracking as she reached for him. "Don't trust her," the ghost whispered, a cold wind against his ear. "She traded us all." "Who?" Sam asked, his vision blurring. But the mirror only shattered. Wind roared through the parlor as Mama Mars screamed, grabbing her bones and salt. The spirits were pouring out, crawling, screeching, weeping. The walls bled ancestral agony. The very wood of the house moaning in a pitch that sounded like a collective climax of pain. Sam collapsed as a child's voice sang a lullaby in reverse, the melody wrapping around his mind like a noose. And in the final moment before darkness consumed him, Sam saw his reflection one last time. It smiled a wide, hungry expression that didn't belong to a human. It stayed. He didn't.
It's horror on Cedar Block. Horror on Cedar Block.